Get up on that kingdom life. Get up on that kingdom life. Yeah, get up on that kingdom life. High coach. Get up on that kingdom life. Get up on that kingdom life. Yeah, get up on that kingdom.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're now tuned in to the High Culture Podcast, where we bring the mind of the divine into our times. I'm your host, Cheray James, and my co-hosts, Terrance Frederick and Jonathan Austin. Do me a favor, show us some love. Welcome, beautiful people. We are excited to be here with you. Yes, it is a very new journey, a very new podcast, and man, we have a lot in store for you, and we wanted to spend some time allowing you to get to know us before you jump into our content. And so before we do any major introductions, I just want to say hello to my co-hosts, Terrance and Jonathan. How y'all feeling, fellas, with this new project that we're collaborating on right now?
Grace and peace. I'm super duper excited about it. Looking forward to building with y'all. Looking forward to building with our audience. Just looking forward to getting it in.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'm excited about the content, all the different subjects we're going to be talking about, and just have an opportunity to create the dialogue that's much needed in our society, in our culture, in the urban communities and other communities, mixing the conversations of faith and conversations of culture and all the other areas that we're going to be dealing with. I believe that it's necessary. So the timing is right. So I praise y'all for it.
Yeah. This is exciting. Yeah. I think all of us at different times may have had desires to do podcasts, but we never really wanted to do it on an individual endeavor. And I just think that the Most High, put the timing together and allow for us to all be ready to go at the same time. So this is definitely a blessing. But like I said, before we get deep into our podcast and what that's about, I want to give you a chance to get to know us. And so I'm going to let my co-host start off just by, giving us a little bit of introduction into themselves, allowing you to see more behind the surface, because y'all going to be listening to us over the microphone. So you can't really get to know us that way. So we want to make sure you have a chance to dig in a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and throw the Jonathan, share some things about yourself with the people, just so they can know like what to expect from you, what they're going to get from your field, like where you come from and all that type of stuff.
Most definitely. Grace and peace. Welcome, everybody. I'm Jonathan Austin. I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, currently staying in Gulfport, Mississippi. Been married for 12 years to my wife, Kayla. We have a 12-year-old daughter, Jalen. I have a 19-month-old daughter now, Jordan. And then I have my junior, my little prince. He's 5 months now. So we have a busy household in here. Just a little background on me. Met my bro and my sis, Terrance and Cheray in South Carolina when I was stationed in the Air Force. I did 4 years active duty Air Force, which kind of grew me up a lot going through that. And so very, very proud of my service, proud to be a part of it, and it set me up pretty well. After the Air Force, I separated, and I became a high school English teacher and a basketball coach, and kind of dedicated a lot of time while I was in, a little bit of time when I was out to get my credentials together so that I can teach English, and went out into the school system. I taught high school English for about 5 years. And then now I'm currently in Gulfport. I work again for the Air Force as an instructor for them. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. As far as my background, like my faith, my journey, I grew up in the church, and I attribute it to my parents. They made sure that I had the foundation that I needed to be able to establish my own personal relationship with the Father. So extremely thankful for them. But then I realized as I got older, my relationship was kind of based on what I was taught as opposed to having a real personal relationship. And I started asking questions, and it was a period of time where I was afraid to ask a lot of questions because I was afraid of answers. And that let me know that my faith was lacking. And so when I got the courage to start asking questions, I had a lot of revelation and a lot of things that were revealed to me, and I learned a lot. And my faith was so much more strengthened because I was actually seeking and searching. And so that's one thing that I do advocate for. Ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. I promise you the Father has the answers. He'll take care of it. So don't be afraid to ask the questions. And that's kind of the aspect that I'm going to bring to the podcast. I ask a lot of questions. I'm trying to gain knowledge. I feel like I'm behind the curve on my knowledge, so I'm actively trying to gain knowledge. And I feel like I have some good co-hosts for that. Passions, man, I love kids. That's why I wanted to go into education. Mentoring was a huge and is a huge part of what I'm doing. I still love to coach, still doing that. And so one of the things is I just really want the youth to be equipped with the tools that they need to be successful. There's a lot of things out here that set up for their failure because they just don't have that knowledge. They don't have those people around to guide them and steer them in the right way. So I just want to do my part into trying to educate as many of the young people to get engaged, get active, and to reach their full potential, because I truly feel like they are the future. Once, they are going to be the ones who are making these decisions, and a lot of times they just don't have the tools that they need to get to that point to where they are in those rooms and making those decisions. So I just want to do my part with that. But just going to bring a lot of social means to doing that, talking about a lot of social things, asking a lot of questions, trying to generate a lot of thoughts, just trying to figure out different things with you all. So I'm excited about this journey. I'm looking forward to taking this journey with you all. And so let's get into it.
That's peace. That's beautiful. I would have to concur. He's a teacher, but I noticed that the most powerful teachers position themselves as students often, pretty much all the time. And I can say that he has such a humility of just being willing to ask questions and admitting like, hey, I don't know that. And I think that it pushes all of us to dig in more, to be able to have clarity, to explain things. And so I definitely think that he brings a awesome dynamic to the show, and you're going to enjoy his contribution because the brother comes with the facts. He comes with the facts. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to you, Terrance. I want you to break it open, let the people know something about you. Let them dig in a little bit.
Shalom, good people. I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina, but you could really say I'm from Sumter because I spent most of my time growing up in Sumter, South Carolina, which my dad was in the military and he ended up going to Shaw Air Force Base. So that's how we got to Sumter. I'll come from, as my brother said, from a Christian background. My parents were devout believers. They felt the call in their life to become pastors. I didn't grow up with them as pastors, but just basically devout members of church. But right at the end, they became pastors. I rebelled. I had the classic prodigal son story. Coming up in church, you go out there and want to experience different things. So I have that story for days. But I was exposed to a lot of different religions, 5% doctrines, New Age movements, all kind of different things. So they opened me up and opened up my mind to let me know how much I didn't know about the faith that I was saying that I was proclaiming. So it set me on a journey of spiritualism, seeking the faith, trying to understand different religions and different aspects of spirituality. And I ended up, long story short on that, ended up coming back to the faith with a hunger and a drive to serve the Lord. I began to start digesting the word like a madman, just trying to catch up on everything that I had missed. And started real heavily in evangelism, street ministry, going out on the block, ministering to people, talking to people about the faith. It matured from evangelism into prophetic type ministry. God began to start revealing more about what the prophetic is. We moved into, as I was growing, I had people around me that I was connecting with, Cheray being one of them, but, just learning about what God was saying about our team, about our crew, and what he wanted us to do. So we moved into the prophetic. We moved into deliverance ministry, understanding spiritual warfare and that kind of thing. And then we grew into learning about the apostolic ministry and how to flow in apostleship and that kind of thing. So it's just a big journey. My real backdrop is church leadership. When I came back to the faith, I was entrusted to be a young leader. So I was put in leadership young, to sit on leadership boards and to host conferences and help, serve the community with what we were bringing fresh and new to the area, to the Sumter area. But I did everything with my team. So we wrote books together, we traveled together, we made albums together, singing ministry. We merged the singing as a big part of what I love and my passion is music. So we merged the singing, the rap, the poetry with our understanding of deliverance, spiritual warfare. So we just did something we didn't see anybody in the industry doing, and it was very effective where we were. And then we began to host, as I said, conferences and get perspectives of different believers and where they came from, different ministries, and we began to see what people were lacking, what kind of discipleship they had, and how we could add value to that. So my backdrop, you could just basically say I'm very heavy on theology, very heavy on Christology, very heavy on kingdom. One of the people who influenced my life a lot. He went on to be with the Lord, but Dr. Miles Monroe, rediscovering the kingdom, understanding that. And so I began to move away from that whole mindset of, hey, I want to be a part of a holy gang, because I was coming out of the streets, but trying to merge the streets with what God was saying. So moving from the holy gang type mindset and really getting into real prophetic ministry. But I learned to understand what the Lord was preaching and what he commissioned his apostles to preach, the gospel of the kingdom. And so that's where I'm going to be coming from. That's one of the main things that kind of move me and stir my directive, and also steers my perspective on things. And so I'm excited about the podcast. I'm excited about chopping it up. As my brother said, I love to learn as well. We love to teach and share knowledge, but we love to learn, break open the word, build together. And I love to be around people who think out the box and who don't just think and don't just take what other people say just because they said it, but they go deeper and dig deeper. And you can always dig deeper. And so I believe that what we're going to do in this podcast is just really help stir that desire of people who are truth seekers to dig deeper, and then also give some tools, maybe set some people in a direction, on a path to where they can really hear what the Lord is, where the Lord is taking them, and just to build on that. We want to help be a resource to you all. So I'm excited about it.
Amen. That's peace, man. Listen, I probably could have did a lot of that intro for him, because Terrance has been like my mentor for the last, like I said, almost 20 years. Nah, for real, 20 years. I met him like right before I turned 14, and I'll be 35 this year. So, man, we've been in the game a long time. Blessings to the Most High for that, because a lot of the wisdom and experiences that he had was, I was able to receive that through impartation, through teaching, the laying of the hands, and all those things over the years. But even just as my own story has its genesis, I feel like, God called me into himself within my family context. He called me into himself at a very young age. He introduced me into his world in a very, very, very strange way. I'll say I didn't have a lot of language for my experiences and understanding of God's world. But I knew that there was something different, and pretty much everybody around me knew that I was different. And then the Lord orchestrated a time where I would run into an urban minister who was in the hood breaking open the scriptures. And I would say from then, like, I think that God began to give me understanding, and also using Terrance to spark a curiosity in me. But on the other side of that, I also had a lot of gifts and talents. I like to think of myself as like a river with many streams. There's not just one area, but I think that all of the areas, all the gifts and talents that I have, I've always been a person that really studied human concentrate. I've always been a fan of like just wholeness and humanity, people coming into a place of wholeness and healing. And that might be because I was exposed to a lot of trauma and drama coming up. So, God allowed those experiences to wire me to want to bring I'm sorry, healing and wholeness to the people. And so even in this podcast, the areas that I'll focus on are kind of people centric, to talk about things to bring people to a level of understanding, wisdom, and knowledge so that they can grow and be fortified and fulfilled. But I enjoy, poetry. I enjoy rap. I enjoy singing. I'll be honest, I haven't done a great deal of that in a while, just, working and things of that nature. But even in my vocation, I serve people. So I enjoy that. But in the context of just interest and leanings, man, I am a rabbit hole person. Like, I really like some of everything. You put me in arts, science, mystery, revelation, of course, the spirituality. I love all of that. And I definitely tap on my mentors. I probably exhaust them with the plethora of questions I ask, because I'm a very curious person. And even in that, I probably restrict some of my asking, because there's a question every time I take a breath that pops in my mind. So I'm excited to bring that level of edge. And sometimes I can be very countercultural, not just to be conflicting or to be a person that's likes drama, but I don't like the status quo. I don't go with the status quo. I like to challenge things. I like to dig underneath the surface, because I don't really take many things as face value. Life experiences has led me away from that, and to investigate, to, even in my relationship with God, that there's a glory in excavating and digging for the truth and finding the mystery. And so I kind of take that approach in many ways in life. And so even in this podcast, I'll bring that element to the show, and I'll continue to ask questions and to instigate things, and to see what we can provoke in this cipher of sorts that we have going on here through cultural conversations. And ultimately, the goal is to extract and bring the wisdom of God. Even having said that, just digging into, like, you might be thinking, why the High Culture Podcast? And ultimately, we want to, we have popular culture, you have subcultures and things of that nature that happen, within our society. And we want to bring the high culture, meaning the mind of God, the wisdom of God. We want to bring that into our culture. We want it to flow through us, even through our organic conversations. Our desire is always to extract the wisdom of God from the things that we are experiencing person to person, rather it's in a household level, or it's a celebrity situation, the things that we all know that's happening in government and politics. We want to bring those topics up, but not just for the sake of being gossipy or just to talk about it, but we want to be able to learn from it and extract the wisdom of God, or point to the wisdom of God, or pull in the mind of God, the counsel of God for that particular topic. And we're not saying that as people that sit on the side of, like, we know everything God is thinking, but we sit and wait. We allow for his wisdom to flow to us and then through us, because, it'll be kind of hypocritical to just pretend like we just always tapped in and know everything that's going on with God. So we are looking forward to being able to bring those conversations on a platform in real time, so that you can be a witness and that you can continue and forward those conversations. And so as we built this podcast, we wanted to get into a little bit of everything. We didn't want to just stay on the spiritual or religious side of the conversation. We want to talk about everything that's happening in our world. And so we have a few segments. I'll run through the segments, and then we'll break them down and let you know what you can anticipate from those segments. So we have a segment called For the Culture, the Congress, Unroll the Scroll, What's Good, and Words to Live By. So for the culture, that's wisdom through cultural conversations and commentary. And basically, we'll just be pulling up pop culture topics or things that are trending in our social media world, things that are concerned to the people. And we'll bring those topics up so that we can navigate through them. We can hear what the culture is saying, converse about it, and then allow the mind of God to be shared in response to what the culture is saying, and have that circular dialogue about that. So that's what the For the Culture segment is. I'm going to toss it over to Jonathan to tell you a little bit more about the Congress.
All right, everybody. So when we get into our discussions in the Congress, we're going to be talking about those things that are going on in politics, local politics, national politics, maybe sometimes international. And we're just going to discuss those things. I think it's very, very important for our culture to be aware of what's going on in the political realm. A lot of those decisions will directly affect us. And so we need to be knowledgeable and aware of what's going on And then just not approaching those things from the polarizing aspect that you see today, right? And everybody wants you to look at politics from a specific label that they want to place on you. You're Democrat, you're Republican, you're independent, you're conservative, and you're liberal. But we want to kind of get outside of those things and look more as how would the kingdom look at those things? Us as kingdom citizens, how are we supposed to approach the political realm here? And so we're going to get into a lot of those things. Maybe some specific things. We may just talk about some aspects overall that go into politics, but we're going to kind of get into that content there.
Yeah. I always think that as people of faith, as the sons of the Most High God or daughters, when you are in a position in a country, in a nation, you should be aware of what's going on, because you should be doing one of three things: either praying, protesting, or positioning yourself. And if we can't do any of that if we're not aware. So our desire is to bring that information to a larger audience for a conversation, but also so that you can be in a place of awareness to be doing one of those three things in your personal space, in your family, or your local church, what have you. But our next segment is Unroll the Scroll. Terrance, let the people know what that segment is about.
Yeah, so Unroll the Scroll is basically like breaking open the bread of life, or talking about something that deals with scripture, or something that deals with some doctrinal topics. Maybe they might be controversial, maybe not, but the whole purpose of it is to really get you interested, excited about, and active in engaging in topics. There's something in scriptural topics. There's something that was said about the Bereans, to study like the Bereans, like they didn't just take what Paul was saying, but they went into the scriptures to see if what he was saying was so. So we want to spark up your interest in the word, in scriptures, and to show how to discuss topics about the word, how to have those kind of conversations, because some people struggle with studying the Bible. Some people actually struggle with just opening up the word and studying, but maybe hearing the conversations, hearing the dialogue, it'll spark you and give you some kind of launching pad to maybe even go into studying a certain thing, and then being affirmed or firmly established in the things that you do know. Because sometimes we know things but don't have the words to articulate what we know. So Unroll the Scroll helps us also to know what we know what we need to learn more of, but also be reassured and firmly established in what we know. And there's a lot of people who believe a lot of different things about a lot of different subjects when it comes to the word. So we just want to bring clarity to the scriptures. And sometimes in order to bring clarity, you have to make it almost has to get broken down where it might sound confusing at first, because there's different viewpoints and different opinions about it. But hopefully at the end, you'll get revelation and more revelation about the word of God.
Yeah. I think that's one of my favorite segments to just be able to participate in. It's definitely always enlightening and building. I mean, we've been kind of unrolling the scroll, like I said, for 2 decades now. So I think it'll be beneficial to everybody that listens in. We have 2 additional segments. What's good? We'll let Jonathan do that one. And then Words to Live by. Terrance, you can let them know what that is.
All right. So, in What's Good, that's exactly what we're going to be discussing. We'll not really discussing, but we'll be bringing you things that are good, things that are going to bring you life, things that are going to be good for your soul, things that are going to make you feel good. And so we'll be bringing different resources that we came across that may be beneficial to you, that's going to bless you. Some good news that we may come across throughout the week that's going to, bless you. We know that we are overly saturated with bad news, doom and gloom. And so we want to take this time to cut through that and just give you some good things to think about, some good resources that's going to bless you.
Yeah, and words to live by, that's basically just a word of encouragement, something to send you off after you've gone through the different segments of the show, and just something for you to motivate you to keep on keeping on, as the old people used to say, something that would just inspire you. Maybe it's just a thought, maybe it's a scripture, maybe it's a quote, but just something that you would take to the bank. This is something that will help me get through my day. Maybe it's a strategy. Something to keep in mind. So it's basically what it sounds like, a word to live by.
Yeah, guys. So we have a jam-packed podcast with content Our podcast will be on a weekly basis. We're going to drop them on Saturday so you can enjoy your Sabbath, spend time with your family, maybe check out the podcast during that time of, rest and fellowship. Or maybe you'll catch it at a later time during your week, but it'll be available on Saturdays. We will be a seasonal podcast, so you'll have time to catch up if you miss weeks, and then, take a little break and then come back in as we continue to grow. Because again, our ultimate goal is to allow the wisdom of God to flow. And so we don't want to just always just be recording and not just spending time with God. So we'll come in and record. We'll, give you a lot of good content, then take some time off and come back to you. But again, on Saturday mornings when you jump in, definitely we want to make sure that you're able to engage with us. Our social media, we're building that up. The High Culture Podcast, that's on IG and Facebook. That's The High Culture, spelled exactly how it sounds, on both of those platforms. And if you would like to, just send us thoughts, or you want us to cover certain topics, or maybe you have some what's good, you want us to rock your stuff, or whatever the case might be, you can hit us up on our email at thehighculturepodcast@gmail.com. We are looking forward to an awesome journey, and we were excited that you decided to start the journey with us. I'm saying rock with us. We definitely will have some times of growth. This is very new for all of us, and we are excited. We're excited to partner with the Father to bring you another resource, a source of entertainment, but also maybe some information, enlightenment, and wisdom. And we looking forward to all of that, y'all. So I think that's all we have for this particular introduction. And we pray that you will just continue to rock with us. And I'm going to leave you with this. You may mind your manners. You may mind your business, but don't do anything without considering the mind of God. It's the High Culture Podcast, y'all. We look forward to seeing you.
High culture, get up on that kingdom life. Get up on that kingdom life. Yeah, get up on that kingdom life. High culture, get up on that kingdom life. Get up on that kingdom life. Yeah, get up on that kingdom life. Young men, they're seeing visions, and old men, they're really dreaming. Get up on that kingdom life. Young men, they're seeing visions, and old men, they're really dreaming. Get up on that kingdom life. High culture, get up on